There are very few ideas I've come across as a teacher, tried with students, and said, wow, I'm going to be using this forever. Because as you know, teaching ideas come and go. They might seem to work with one group but not with another, or you just outgrow them as a teacher. Not so with what I'm going to show you in this video, which for me has become a sine qua non. Salve, Justin here from the Latin Teacher Lab to share with you a video from within the lab showcasing 3 signs and gestures that my students and I use to streamline the flow of class. And not just to make class run smoother, but to actually enter a state of flow with deep, active, sustained learning. The ideas you're about to see, I first learned around 2010 through the teaching and learning system called Where Are Your Keys, in which I was soon also trained to train others. And the signs you'll see me use were incorporated into that system in dialogue with ASL speakers, members of the deaf community. That's important to note because without that dialogue, just pulling elements of a language from their linguistic context and from the community that developed them would be a kind of appropriation that we don't want to engage in. If you want to play it really safe, you can use, instead of American Sign Language signs, gestures that you or your students have made up. So let me give you the 3 signs and, what's more important, the ways of thinking and learning that are associated with and cued by the signs. And I'll also give you 7 deeper reasons why these are so effective and why they're worth your time to learn and adopt. Let's dive in. So here we go. The first sign is slow, asking the speaker to slow down, and it's simply this. This is basically the American Sign Language sign for slow. If I'm speaking in any language, although the idea is mainly for if I'm speaking the target language, in this case Latin, and a student wants me to slow down, they can just do this. Now, why do that instead of teaching students either to raise their hand and ask me to slow down, or teaching students in the target language, lentius loquaris quaeso, or something like that, that's please slow down, please speak more slowly? Well, I do teach those things, I can teach those things, but it's incredibly useful to have something that can be communicated without interrupting the overall flow of the interaction. And it's also incredibly useful to have something that students can do fairly unobtrusively. So if I'm speaking and I'm looking around at my students while I speak, as I do, and I see a student do this, which they can do just kind of at desk level or lap level or here, however it is for me to be able to see it, I will just see that and start speaking more slowly. I don't need to call attention to that necessarily. I might choose to go back and say some of the things I've recently said again more slowly, but that's how students get me to slow down. Now, I'll tell you a secret, which is that my personal hope is that no student ever actually needs to use that sign. So I give students the sign, and then I purposely try to speak slowly enough that they don't need to use it. If you're wondering why give the student the sign if you're intending for them not to need to use it, well, I'll tell you why when I talk about the 7 main benefits of using signs like this afterward. The second sign is repeat or again. That's this right here. So if I've just said something and students want to hear it again, either so they can savor the sound, maybe because they just missed it, maybe it was so profound, they just want to hear it again, they just do this. And this is a sign, more than the slow down one, that I might also show to students as well. Maybe a student makes a comment and I'm not sure everyone heard. I might do this to get them to repeat it. Maybe I'll combine the signs and say, in which case I'm asking them to repeat that same comment more slowly so that everyone can hear it really well. So that's repeat. Last but not least for now is clarify. And sometimes use this right here, which means something like make it obvious. That could be if I just made a comment and it's maybe confused students a bit. That could be if I'm using a word and a student wasn't sure what I meant by that. For that sign, to communicate that thing, I actually give students a very specific, even more specific sign, which is this right here. This is the American Sign Language sign for word. So if I use a word that a student in the moment doesn't know what it means or what I mean by that, they can do this and I'll clarify. And by the way, I want to comment on the wording I used just there. This is not if you don't know the word or if you've forgotten the meaning of the word. That might be what happened, but I always say to students, if you're not sure what I mean in the moment, give me this sign or give me the make it more obvious sign. Why do I say it that way if you're not sure what I mean in the moment? Well, because communication is just about what's happening in the moment. If a student sort of memorized the word some other time, but they're not sure what I mean by it right now, then successful communication is not happening, and it doesn't matter that the word was learned in some other way. Even if a student did learn it and then forgot, that still doesn't matter. We're trying to communicate in real time. We're trying to have students acquire a language which happens from understanding communication, whether spoken or written in the target language. So I want to make sure that happens. And of course, another reason why I emphasize if you're not sure what I mean in that moment is because the same word might have different senses in different moments, in different contexts. And so a student might say, wait, I think I know that word, or I thought I know that word, might say that to themselves, but I'm not sure what's meant by this. And so they can do this sign right here, and I'll clarify the meaning of the word. Now, why do I swear by the use of a manual meta-language during target language communication? 7 quick and powerful reasons. Number 1, it teaches students to identify their needs as a learner. When a student hears something or reads something, because they can use these signs when they're reading something as well, ask for the meaning of a word, ask me to repeat something, maybe if I'm reading it out loud or if another student is reading it out loud. When a student identifies though, wait, why am I not understanding? Oh, I think I just need to hear that more slowly, or maybe I just need to hear it again, or maybe I literally don't know it and I actually need some clarification. And they use that, they use the sign, they are getting what they specifically need, and the ability to do that and the tools for doing that also help them start identifying their needs. And that's something that I want for my learners. You probably want it as well, for them to identify what they need in order to grow. Number 2, using these signs or using other gestures for some of these things de-stigmatizes uncertainty. If I tell students up front, hey, if you need me to slow down, just do this. Or if you need me to repeat something, just do this. No problem. If you need me to clarify a word, do this. Well, then I've made it normal to maybe be a little uncertain and double check when you're uncertain about something. I've also given the students a tool with which they can fairly unobtrusively communicate their need, right? I said they could do this kind of at desk level, for example, or just above if you have desks. So even though I'm destigmatizing it, I'm also giving students a way without maybe lots of people seeing or without them making a big show of it to get help. Number 3, using these signs or gestures or one similar to them really drives home the point that language is for communication. If it weren't, we wouldn't need signs like this. We wouldn't need to be able to communicate to people that it would be helpful if they slowed down a bit, or if they repeated a thing so we could catch it better, or if they clarified their meaning. So getting into students' minds that that's something that they should be looking out for and be prepared to communicate confirms for all contexts in which we interact with language, including written, that language is something that's designed for communication. Number 4 is kind of similar to number 3, and it's that giving students these signs or gestures clearly communicates to students that I want them to understand what's going on in this class. Remember I said at the beginning that I give students the sign for slowing me down, but then I hope that they never have to use it. Why would I do that? Well, it's because telling them that they have this tool at their disposal communicates to them that I care if they can keep up with the stuff in this class. I don't want them to fall behind even with one sentence worth of information. I want them to understand, and I believe that they can understand if we work together. And that brings up a really important note if you start to use some of these signs and gestures. It's that, especially early on, it might take students a while to actually take advantage of using the signs or gestures. And you really have to remind students, hey, what can you do if you need me to slow down? Like at the beginning of every class period, sometimes even in the middle, multiple times in the middle of a class period. Hey, what can you do if you need me to clarify a word? And some of that is just a system, maybe a procedure that students aren't used to, using signs or gestures to communicate things like that. Some of it might be actually, sadly, that by the time they come to us, even if they're not old, some students have internalized this idea that, well, a lot of stuff goes on in school and in class that I don't understand. That's just how it is. No, I want to communicate to them that I really care if they understand. Number 5, using signs and gestures for procedures like this develops the mindset of sort of a hackability of learning. If we have a problem of someone speaking too fast, we got a solution for that. If we got the issue of we need to hear something more times and we need to make that happen, we have a solution for that. It's this. If we have the issue of something's not clear, we have a solution for that. It's this. And we can come up with, and maybe I'll make a video about this sometime as well. My students and I frequently say something like, hey, should we come up with a gesture for this? Like we'll solve some kind of a problem in the learning process. And we'll say, should we have a gesture for next time so that we can cue whatever the solution was that we came up to. And so it really develops this mindset of look, yeah, learning takes a while. Learning sometimes can be tricky. Communication can be tricky sometimes, but we have solutions. So using these signs, again, communicates that sort of the learning process can be hacked like that. Number 6, using signs or gestures like these as a meta language during other target language interactions or other learning experiences allows for real-time fine-tuning of the learning process. And what that means is over the course of an interaction, over the course of a class, when the pace gets gradually adjusted and fine-tuned, when we develop what's the right amount of repetition, what's the level of clarity that's required, and we're constantly communicating that, not necessarily worrying about it, but we're constantly able to communicate that and fine-tune it. It really allows for the specific issues that are an obstacle to communication or learning in general to be addressed in real time, so that we don't go for a while without solving that. We don't go for a long time talking too fast and then realize, oh my gosh, how much of that was even understood, and therefore how much of that time was well used. So a real power of these things is real-time fine-tuning of the learning process. Number 7, last but not least, and strongly related to number 6, is that ultimately this shaves time off the learning process. If we go a while talking too fast, that might be not completely wasted time for everybody, but it certainly wasn't efficiently used time. And I don't know about you, I don't talk often to teachers who feel like they have plenty of time to waste. I especially don't often talk to Latin teachers who feel like, oh yeah, we got plenty of time to learn all the Latin we need to learn and read all the texts we want to read. So I love shaving time off the learning process. For a lot of things in learning in general and in acquiring a language, there's no shortcut. But we can definitely streamline things and shave time off the process by attending closely to things like our pace and our repetitions of exposure and other things, and giving students a way to communicate that in real time makes it most likely that that time saving will actually happen. Hello again. I hope you find some inspiration from those ideas. If you've already done something similar and can take a moment to share a pointer or two for the rest of us in the comments below, that would be wonderful. If you want there to be more videos like this and more people to be able to find them, please go ahead and give this one a like. And if you want more insight into how I set up my Latin classes to run smoothly from day one, check out this video next. Vale.